What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes always bring you the best. Paul Hughes joins us today. He's coming off what I just told him prior to the interview, a possible fight of the year. I'm telling you, this fight can hold up for the rest of 2025. His battle versus Usman Nurmagomedov a few weeks ago was a classic. Paul, how you feeling, man? Have you been getting that compliment a lot from fans, coaches, teammates?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fight was definitely the biggest one I've had in my life. It's certainly hit new numbers and new heights.
If there was a sixth round, do you think maybe your hand gets raised? Because it looked like that, the tide was shifting a little bit.
Absolutely, it was. It certainly was. I mean, you give me 30 more seconds, maybe in the fifth round, and I probably would have got him out of there. But I could say that all I want. I didn't get my hand raised, and I just need to make sure that I do the next time.
You took it like a champ. You've been very gracious in defeat. So does that basically mean, maybe it just means more pressure and more output earlier to get him to that phase where he declines? Because it looks like, your cardio is very, very good. Uh, but also keeping in fact that he's going to watch the tape and maybe address that as well.
Yeah, perhaps. But look, someone like Usman, he's one of the best athletes in the world for a reason. He's very dangerous, and if I rushed into too many shots, if I started throwing four, five, six punches at him at the start of a fight, I'd certainly be getting dropped on my head. So it's easier said than done for sure, but there will be adjustments made for the next fight.
That's a good point. But look, man, you've just gone through a good American wrestler, an AJ McKee, a great Russian wrestler, and Usman Magomedov. Who helped you prepare for these battles against these two different types of wrestling and high level opponents?
So my head coach Patrick McAllister here in Belfast is someone I've been training with for probably, I would say, 8 years now, and he is just absolutely phenomenal. He is the young song hero of my training. He is, in my opinion, one of the top MMA coaches in the world by far. He's my secret weapon in many ways, but it's becoming not so much of a secret anymore.
He addresses the wrestling specifically, or
The
okay,
whole game, the
got
whole
it.
game. But he comes from a grappling background, and he's just absolutely phenomenal. He is on the cutting edge of mixed martial arts at all times, and he's a large part of the reason why I'm here.
To me, it appears he tells you if you give up the takedown, it's like hot lava. Get right back up. Like,
Hmm.
let's not mess around with butterfly guards or underhooks. It looks like he wants you up as soon as possible. It reminds me of Chuck Liddell back in the day when he'd get taken down. That was his deal too. He's not going to spend too much time down there. He wants to get back to slinging them.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, that's the game. MMA these days, it's scored on damage, and you can't do an awful lot of damage from bottom if you get stuck there. So you see MMA grappling and normal grappling is a very different sport these days. MMA grappling is largely based on how can you get back to your feet, whereas normal grappling, I guess you play that bottom game, but that's not the game that we're in.
What is your future now that you've had a few weeks off, and we know that the upcoming PFL seasons is coming up, and I know there's options, right? There's their regular season, or there's maybe you've graduated to like, hey man, I'm a star. Like, just get me in line for another title shot.
Yeah, look, I want the rematch. It's so evident. I think that that's what the fans want. I think that's what PFL wants. Probably not what Usman wants right away, but at the end of the day, he doesn't really have a choice in the matter. I would certainly say that the fight will happen this year. In fact, it will definitely happen this year. But if I was to say when, I would probably estimate more towards the end of the year. And if that is the case, then I want to stay busy in the meantime and fight somebody else.
He was a bit out of line, wasn't he? With you need four to get back to him. I could see one, right? Um, Two at the most, but I think one just because this fight was so competitive. And I like your idea. Maybe you can sell it. All right, I'll do two, but the next one's in Belfast. I don't know what have you thought of?
Look, I mean, that's obviously crazy talk. 3 to 4 is just the roster isn't that deep for him to fight that many people. First of all, I think anybody that heard that kind of laughed. But
I
look,
did.
if for sure, if Usman is not available to the end of the year, then I want to fight in Belfast in the summer. That is what I'm trying to put out there. Whether or not that happens, I
You earned
certainly
it.
hope so. I think it's the best business for all parties, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, sell out 9,000 people in the SSE in my hometown here. Create another huge event for PFL, another incredible atmosphere. It's a no brainer to me.
Did you already feel your star kind of grow, as George mentioned earlier in the interview? Because yeah, it was a loss, but a lot of people were talking about you and talking good things about you in a loss. Did you feel that the second you opened your phone, you went through your messages, you talked to friends and family? Have you felt that new stardom?
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's completely different level than ever. Completely different level than ever in all regards. Um, yeah, it's. I mean, my stock has went through the roof because of this fight, and to be honest, that was absolutely expected. I expected to beat him. I expected my hand to be raised and to be in this position of like worldwide notoriety, you would say. But it's certainly been a huge blessing. It's something I don't take for granted. It's something I've worked my whole life towards, is to put myself in this position. So it's definitely nice to see I'm starting to be where I foreseen myself as a young kid coming up in this sport.
Sometimes when we speak to fighters after a loss, they'll tell us, I got to go back to the drawing board and watch some video and figure out what went wrong. But then sometimes fighters will tell us, as soon as that fight was over, I knew exactly how to beat that guy if we fought the next time. Which one feels closer to the way you were feeling?
Oh, look, I mean, I almost had him. Put it like that. I almost had him at the fourth and fifth round. The head clash changed the momentum of the fight. He got a very long recovery. I think if that head clash does not happen, that I'm sitting talking to you now as the champion, having finished him and broken him. I think that was inevitable to happen. So I know what I have to do next time to beat him. And yeah, I just need to make sure that I get this fight back soon.
What was one thing you could say that you learned about yourself that maybe you didn't know going into that fight?
I wish I could say something. Nothing. I knew that that's how good I was. I really believed I was going to get my hand raised. I fought how I planned the fight. He fought how I thought he was going to fight. I pushed the pace like I thought I would, and yeah, I don't know. I think I just proved to myself rather than learn something I learned about myself. I think I just proved to myself once again that I am the athlete that I say I am, and I think I proved that to the world.
Paul, just to put a capstone on something we were talking about earlier, you want Usman or whatever it takes to get to Usman next. So does that kind of rule you out of doing a season that would require 4 fights in 6 or 7 months?
I would never say never. At the end of the day, I'm here to make money as well. But look, I think I think it's inevitable that I fight Usman this year. I think it's the biggest fight the PFL can do. I think it would be absolutely crazy talk if that fight did not happen this year. So I think that maybe would rule me out of it.
I like that you seem to be drawn more towards gold and world titles than money. A lot of times the fighters, all they think about is money, and they're entitled to it. You guys are prize fighters. But I can tell every time we talk about Usman, who's the champ, you want what he has, and you want a belt right behind that ball, that wall, that wall that's sitting right behind you. Looks like there's a spot for it too. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
Um, but you're right. If unless you don't fight, you don't make money. So, is it appealing? 4 weight cuts so strung together, but maybe winning. I think it's now down to 500,000 at the end of the year. A lot of great fighters have gone that route.
Yeah, it's certainly appealing, and it's something that I had my eyes set on when I signed to the PFL, was winning that $1 million. But now the structure has quite changed. It's now 3 fights. It's now a 3 fight single elimination tournament, which I actually personally think is a better product than a 4 fight season. I think that points and finishes and these kinds of things kind of confused people a little bit. I
Yeah.
also think that 4 fights in a year is just too much. I think it's not always going to be the best fighter that wins the season. or now the tournament, it would be the one that doesn't get injured, the one that there's a lot of factors. I think that the 3-fight tournament is a much better product. Now, yes, it is 500,000 for the winner, but what people don't understand, there's a couple of things going on there. When you were fighting for the $1 million, the semi-final and the final purse was deducted from that million, whereas in the new tournament it isn't deducted. So a fighter, whenever I'm on X and X, when I fight my semi-final and final, I'm still getting paid that, and then I get a bonus of 500K. That's how
Oh,
that's how that is now structured. So I personally think that's very good for the fighters as well, having only 3 fights. I think it's a much better product. But as I mentioned, I don't think that's in my near future. I think getting that belt is going to be next for me.
shit. That's all you had to say, Paul Hughes. You just cleared up a lot of things. You should be working for the PFL as a suit as well, doing PR, because you cleared up a lot of things that make it sound just as appealing as it was, where I believe people have kind of been coming down on the PFL, because it did seem like less money, less of a prize. But I like the way you cleared things up. And Dakota Ditcheva kind of did your route, Europe, and then come in and smash. And now I don't know what she's going to do next, but I see that type of superstardom for you as well.
Yeah, I foresee that for myself too, and I think the PFL are going to do a lot of very good shows this year. I like what they're doing with the PFL, now the PFL Champion Series. I think that they're going to do the best fight in the best, such as myself versus Usman, the fights that the fans want to see the most, and I think it's going to be a very exciting year all around.
Don Davis, listen to this kid, man. Let him do the PR, not you. All right. So, Paul, at the end of the fight, you had a great exchange with the team from Dagestan. And then on social media, not so great of an exchange with a fellow Irishman. Has that settled? Has there been any DMs that have cleared things up? Or is there now a little bit of heat that you didn't have with McGregor before? And then, well, let's address that first. And then maybe you can tell us about the Dagestani team.
No, I think what went out there on Twitter is all that there is to the story. That's literally it. I think everyone's seen the reaction and how it went down. Everyone also seen my response to it. It wasn't a very militant response. It was what it was. It ended up a lot of people done the fighting for me in terms of the comments and the pushback. So yeah, it was what it was.
You disappointed still, or
No, to be truthful, no. Even at the time, did not take it I did not personally. I didn't take it personal. I think that unfortunately, it's not the Connor that we once knew. In say 2016, I didn't take it. People were saying, is it sad to hear that from your idol or someone you looked up to? And it's unfortunately that's not the person that tweeted that message. Unfortunately. It's kind of course not something I wish on anybody. I kind of think it's a sad thing, but that's just what it is.
can the fences be mended if you were to see him and he were to offer up anything, an apology or a handshake?
Right now, I would say no, because of not me personally. I can make up with anybody, but more so because of where I come from and how deeply insulting it was. The thing that he said to the people where I come from, it's probably the worst and most disrespectful thing you could say to someone is that they are not Irish, being from the north of the island that I am. So it's on that behalf, it wouldn't be mendable right now.
Fair enough. All right, Goes, you got something to close out here with Paul?
Yeah, I was just curious, dealing in other sports, in boxing or even in football, sometimes when you see a superstar from one country and then somebody else comes along, there's always this kind of weird pressure to almost live up to this person and to be like that person. And we used to interview Conor McGregor back when he was with Cage Warriors, and just people are different. Fighters are different. Does that ever get annoying to you when people maybe want you guys to be similar, but you guys are different people?
Yeah, I certainly see that at times. I definitely do. And as you're coming up in this game, if you were to kind of be compared to someone of that status, it's such a huge positive. It's like, holy shit, I am being compared to this. But as I've got older, I've realized, look, I'm forging my own pathway. I am my own man, and I'm trailblazing my own pathway here. I think my decision with going down a different pathway to the PFL and choosing them over the UFC is a trailblazing thing in itself, and I will continue to choose my own pathway and to just, I guess, I just try to do my best throughout it, and yeah, that's it.
We're right at the time limit, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you the last one here. Going back to the Dagestanis, what did it mean to you for Khabib to share that moment with you in the octagon, and then the invite to come down and train with him someday, which you've clarified, hey, let's do the rematch first, but you'd said you'd take him up on it.
Yeah, look, it's obviously a very generous offer, something that I don't take lightly. I think to invite anybody into your home is a very nice thing to do. Um, as mentioned, I'll certainly return the favor someday, and I'm open to that. But it's not something I can remotely entertain until it's done with Usman. When I fight him next, I will beat him, and there will be a trilogy. So not until it's all said and done. Perhaps in a number of years will I do that, or potentially take him up on it. But as I mentioned, it's obviously a very generous offer, and I appreciate it.
Paul Big News Hughes on Junkie Radio. Man, it made my day. And Paul, you kind of look a little bit like Wayne Rooney when he was coming through Everton before he got to Manchester United. I don't know if you follow football, but yeah, man, it was really fun chatting with you.
That's funny.
Yeah, you have a football squad that you root for or no?
Well, I was a big United fan growing up, so that I know all about Wayne Rooney, especially in that era. He was my guy, like, so that's why it's kind of funny. Let's go.
All right, mate. Have a good one. Thanks for the time.
Yes, lads. Appreciate it.